All right, Krystal, what's on your radar?
Well, throughout this campaign, Elizabeth Warren has cultivated an image as relentlessly cheerful and unflappable, never cross, always ready with a plan or a folksy quip or a tale from her upbringing on the ragged edge of the middle class, sort of peppy silver sneakers cheerleader with the right answer always ready to go. But every once in a while, Warren's mask slips, and always in circumstances when she's caught off guard. You see, mostly she hasn't faced that much tough questioning. Unlike Sanders and Buttigieg and others, she refuses to go on Fox News. She's extraordinarily careful about the interview she sits for, and so she's usually fully in control. So you end up with things like this CNN interview with her husband, which was so extraordinarily fluffy that Sagar did a whole monologue on it. Toughest cue was actually to Bruce Warren, quote, "If she does become the nominee, she will go up against President Trump. Are you ready for that?" Warren also gave an interview to Entertainment Weekly on her favorite TV show, which is allegedly Ballers. Most of the media is more interested in exposés on her selfie lines than on really challenging her in non-stupid ways. But every once in a while, she gets hit with a real question. Remember this moment on the campaign trail when right after dropping a 7-figure ad buy focused on anti-corruption, she got asked whether her plan would have barred Hunter Biden from sitting on the board of Burisma.
For two ethics plans, could you say whether or not under a Warren administration would your vice president's child be allowed to serve on a board of a foreign company?
No.
Why
I don't.
not?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the details on
Do you
the
think
plan.
there could be a problem with that?
I have to go back and look.
You can just see the political calculation in real time. She wants to say no because she knows that Hunter serving on that board is wrong. But she doesn't want to say no because she doesn't want to miss the chance to be Biden's VP or Treasury Secretary or whatever if he does end up in the White House. There's no way to get the answer right. And so she sort of panics. And how can we forget this one when Charlemagne the God asked when she knew that she wasn't Native American?
You know, that's, like I said, it's what I learned from my family.
When did you find out you weren't?
Well, you know, I'm not a person of color. I'm not a citizen of a tribe. And tribal citizenship is an important distinction and not something I am. So.
Was there any benefits to that?
No. Boston Globe did a full investigation. It never affected, nothing about my family ever affected any job I ever got.
She didn't get a discount in college? No.
You kind of like the original Rachel Dolezal a little bit. Rachel Dolezal was a white woman pretending to be black.
No, this is what I learned from my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No answer for the question that has dogged her most consistently since she entered political life, because answering would require an admission of some sort, an admission of dishonesty or potentially unfair benefits or cultural appropriation. There's no way to get the right answer. You can't get an A on this one. So she goes evasive and doesn't actually answer when she first found out the truth about her heritage, just as she dodged the question on Hunter. Well, there's a new one to enter into the books, and it was not pretty. At this weekend's Environmental Justice Presidential Forum in South Carolina, the incomparable Amy Goodman asked Warren a very fair and important question about the primary process. Watch the exchange.
Let me just, before you finish, are you actually going to ask me to sit here and criticize Iowa and New Hampshire?
No, I'm asking about the order.
No, that is what Iowa and New Hampshire
let me
are all
just
about.
ask, they're two of the whitest states in the country. And then we moved to South Carolina with a very significant population of people of color. And it means the candidates spend so much of their time catering to those first two states. Overall, do you think that should change?
Look, I'm just a player in the game on this one. And I am delighted to be in South Carolina. Thank you.
I'm just a player in the game. Wow. This entire interaction was so revealing. First of all, Warren thought this question, which again, totally reasonable and fair, especially given the context of the forum, was out of bounds. That it was unreasonable for her to have to answer a question that could put her in politically treacherous waters. She objects straight away. How dare Goodman put her in a tough spot? As with questions about her heritage and her corruption plan vis-a-vis Hunter Biden, this was not in the range of questions that Goodman was supposed to ask her. And Goodman isn't supposed to ask her this question because there's no safe answer. Say yes, the process is flawed and you piss off key voters in early states. Say no, the process is great and risk the wrath of people of color who are subordinated in this process by the fact that two extremely white states get to set the tone for the entire primary. There's no briefing book you can study or expert you can consult, and Warren finds herself flummoxed and pissed about it. But then her answer was even more revealing. I'm just a player in the game. Honestly, if Warren ever was the nominee, Trump could just run this on a loop on every ad. He could plaster it on billboards because it's so unintentionally honest and damningly so. It strikes to the core of the problem with Warren's campaign, what makes her feel so inauthentic. She's an insider, a player in the game, pretending to be a revolutionary, co-opting the language of movements, talking about big structural change, play acting the part of the class warrior. And while there are good things to be said about effective players in the game, the public has made clear that they are done with all the players in the game. Because if you're playing the existing game, the working class always loses. As one friend of the show put it, this is the person that's going to lead large structural change. In the grand scheme of things, answering a question about Iowa and New Hampshire, really, it's nothing. It requires the smallest modicum of political courage just to answer what she so obviously thinks, but does not want to say, that yes, the primary process is less than ideal. But Warren can't get a B on the test. She has to get an A. And as a natural pleaser, A student, rule follower myself, I get it. I really do. But it is such a massive and easily exploited weakness. First of all, if she were to ever become president, the only questions that come to you are of the unsafe, no-win type. But also, when you have to get an A, it makes it really easy for people to screw with you. Trust me, I've seen it. I've lived it. That need to get an A is why she did this whole catastrophically stupid DNA test to avoid admitting that she'd screwed up by claiming Native heritage. It's why she went to such elaborate and counterproductive lengths to avoid saying, yes, middle-class taxes will go up under Medicare for all. It's why she waited until the outcome was clear and then endorsed Hillary Clinton. And it's why, despite all her protests to the contrary, she will never be a revolutionary, always just a player in the game. Sagar, it's so unusual that she actually gets tough questions. But you see when she does, there's a fragility there.
I didn't understand either. Why don't you just be like, I say the same thing in South Carolina and Nevada that I do in Iowa and New Hampshire. My message doesn't change, and because of that, we're going to have big structural change. And next question.
Yeah,
it's like,
and look at our diverse
easy.
coalition,
like,
et cetera, et cetera.
Snap back at the interview. I'm like,
She's
do you
so
really
irritated.
Yeah, she is very irritated to face a critical question. And that's the thing, is she doesn't put herself on Fox News. She doesn't put herself in a situation where you get tough questions. I mean, I see all these other candidates getting flogged on other networks all the time. And it's a good thing, by the way.
Yeah.
It actually teaches you quite a bit about how to interact. You could say whatever you want about Donald Trump. Do you think he's ever like been scared to answer tough questions on any of these things? No. He loves sitting down for interviews. It's one of his favorite things. And it's about the authenticity of a politician, which is that you look like you'll be able to stand in some of these things. And you're right, which is, look, all these interviews she does are very carefully managed stage shows. She only manages to stumble in somebody like Charlamagne the God, who's not a traditional political interviewer, on a rope line. Somewhere like this, where she got an actual question, critical question from the left, that's so lacking in terms of the interviews that she has. And look what happens. It's like every single time, it's just the mask comes off.
Right, and the media mostly just gives her a pass.
Yeah, they do.
And there's a sense, among some Democrats that, like, we shouldn't be tough on the candidates right now because you're going to give ammo to Trump if you're the nominee. And that is, to me, the exact opposite way of how we should look. These people need to be tested now. I mean, if you think it is so important to get President Trump out of office, which I do, you need to know who's going to be able to take the heat, because he's going to throw something at her that is much tougher, and much more unfair. I mean, this was a reasonable and fair question from Amy Goodman, posed in a very respectful way. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. You think Trump is going to be so reasonable and fair with you? You think the right, the Breitbarts of the world are going to be so reasonable and fair with you? I don't think so. Not to mention, that type of temperament is really poorly suited to being president of the United States, where every question that comes to you is one without a safe or easy or obvious answer, where there are trade-offs, where there is pain on both sides. And if you're the type of person who always has to get an A, who always has to get the right answer, you're going to be very poorly suited for that office.
The most poll-tested, pleasing answer. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've seen it, whenever I cover the White House. Not a single thing that will ever come to you is a good thing, right? Like, nothing that crosses. So I think Rahm Emanuel said this. If it could have been solved before it hits the president's desk, it would have been 10 times over, which means everything you get is a terrible question and a terrible decision. There's no right answer. And you're going to have a whole press corps sitting there lobbing questions at you, and you can't snap at them and say, do you really expect me to do something? Forget about it.
Just a player in the game. All right, Sagar, looking forward to your radar next.